Okay, Noah, I am going to go through these examples that you sent me. I apologize for the delay, but let's go ahead and go over these. So the first one is the triangle question, okay, where one side is 10, one side is 8. This is angle FDE. So you are looking for the measure of angle F here, okay? Well, we are given the opposite side, so we're going to use SOHCAHTOA, right? So sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and TOA is opposite over adjacent. So we're given the opposite side, if we're talking about angle F, this would be the opposite side, and this would be the adjacent side. So we would use tangent. However, none of the answer choices give you tangent. You have, here are your answer choices. Arc sine 5 square root 41 over 41. Then you have arc cosine 4 over 5. Okay. We have arc cosine of 5 square root 41 over 41. And then we have arc sine of 5 over 4. Okay, so these are my answer choices. So I don't have a tangent I can use. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to use Pythagorean theorem to solve for my hypotenuse, because I have to use sine or cosine, which means I'm going to have my hypotenuse. So I do 8 squared plus 10 squared equals FD squared. Okay, 8 squared is 64, 10 squared is 100. So 164, and then we take the square root of that. Okay, and then this is going to be equal to 4 times 41, and the square root of 4 is 2, and you're left with the square root of 41. Okay, so now we have to decide, are we going to use sine or cosine? Well, let's start with sine. Okay, so I'm going to do sine is going to be equal to my opposite side, that's going to be 10, all over my hypotenuse, which I just found to be 2 square root 41. Now, you can't leave a radical in the denominator. We have to what's called rationalize it. So to get that square root or that radical out of the denominator, you're going to multiply it by itself. Whatever you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. So I have sine is equal to, I should say sine f, really. Sine f is equal to, sorry, that does not look like f, but you get what I mean. 10 square root 41 all over 2 square root of 41 times the square root of 41 is just 41. Okay, the 10 and the 2 reduce. So you have sine f is equal to 5 square root 41 all over 41. Okay, in order to solve for f, you would take the inverse of sine, which is arc sine. Okay, so your answer choice should be, not a little bit to fit everything in, arc sine 5 square root 41 over 41. Now if you did arc cosine, just for the sake of time, I won't go through doing that one, but if you did do arc cosine, you would not get one of these answers. I think you would get 4 square root 41 it would be arc cosine of 4 square root 41 all over 41. Okay, which is not an answer choice, so it's got to be this arc sine. All right, so I hope that was helpful. Let's move on to the second one, the lighthouse question. So I'm a terrible artist, but I'm going to do my best here. And your second question was, the Eiffel Tower in Paris is 324 meters tall. So let's say this is the Eiffel Tower. I should have just stopped at the 2. Anyways, this is 324 meters tall. Jaden is looking up to the top of the Eiffel Tower. So here's Jaden, and he's looking up to the top. And he says it would be so cool if I could zip line down to the bottom from the top. And he is 2 meters tall, and the angle that's formed so this is going to be 2 right here. And the angle that's formed between his eyesight and the tower here, at the top of the tower, that's 80 degrees. Okay, so this is kind of what this looks like. Now, it says how long a line would be needed. So, here's what we're going to be doing here. So we have 2 meters here, and this is 324. So we need to cut off the 2 meters here, unless he's going to the ground. Is he going to the ground? That would end at the height of Jaden. So it would end at the height of Jaden. So we need to take this 2 meters off. So this is going to become, the whole thing is 324, but if we take 2 meters off, this is going to actually be 322. Okay? All right, so we're looking for x here. And we have our opposite side and our hypotenuse. So that means we're going to use sine. Okay? So we have sine of 80 is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Okay? So then we would get that x is equal to, if we multiplied by x and divide by sine of 80, 322 divided by sine 80. I don't have a calculator right in front of me, but if you give me a second, I can tell you what that equals. I'm going to pull up Desmos here. And then you want to make sure that your mode is in degree mode. Okay, so that I don't have to redo this entire video, I did make a mistake here. It says the angle formed between the tower and the zip line. I didn't read it right. It's the tower and the zip line is here. This one's 80. Okay, so that one should be 80. And let me do some calculations here. All right, so my mistake was that I thought the angle was between Jaden looking up at the tower, but it's not. It is between the tower and the zip line. So, scratch what I said, but the only thing that's going to change here is because now this is actually the adjacent side, so we're going to use cosine. So we're going to change this to cosine. Change this to cosine. And then you need to make sure that your degrees are in, or your calculator is in degree mode. So x equals 322 divided by the cosine of 80, which is 1854. Double check that. It's got some decimals like 0.324, but the question rounds it 1854. Okay, so I set it up wrong, which is always an issue, I think, with trig. It gets tricky to set it up sometimes. Just got to read the problem carefully, which I did not. So yes, so since the degree of 80 is up here, that makes this the adjacent side, which means we have adjacent over hypotenuse. So it's going to change it to cosine. All right, Noah, I hope that was helpful. If you have any other questions, please let me know.